Hey guys, welcome to a breakdown of Andor episode 9, which came out this week and some have said is the best episode yet. The episode starts on Ferrix, where last episode left off. Bix Caleen gets interrogated by Dedra, with the ISB looking to extract any information they can about Andor, Luthen, and other rebel activity. I found it kind of amusing to watch Dedra fighting for power in the ISB and some of the episodes leading up to this one, but in this scene we see the absolute brutality and drive that has made her so successful. You can just see the arrogance dripping off her as she talks to Bix. Dedra tries to break Bix, but she doesn't reveal any information. Meanwhile, Cassian Andor is still trapped in the Imperial prison with his team, where he continues to help build these machine parts. We haven't really had any indication what these parts are for, but there's a pretty good chance that it's related to the Death Star. I'll explain a little bit more about why I think that in a minute. We see that Andor and his team have started building some really solid chemistry, but Ulaf, the old guy on their team, is starting to become a bit of a liability. He is old and almost done with his sentence, but his hand is bothering him, and throughout the episode we see him struggling to complete his tasks. We then go back to Bix, who has her interrogation taken to another level, when Dr. Gorsh brings out a torture device to mess with her mind and weaken her so that she will reveal the information that the ISB wants. The device works, and Dedra is able to get a substantial amount of information. Back on Narkina 5, we see another prisoner brought in, and Cassian trying to break out of the prison. And we also see him conspiring with other prisoners, trying to find a way out. We then go to Coruscant for the first time in this episode, and see Mon Mothma speaking in front of the Senate. Mon is speaking against an order by the Emperor, and is worried about him getting too much power. As she speaks, there are many voices from the crowd disagreeing with her, while a few try to quiet the dissenters. We then hear the lights on some of the senators' floating pods being turned off, kind of signifying that they disagree with what she is saying. Mon is clearly disappointed and frustrated as she leaves, and finds out in her transport that her cousin has arrived, meaning Vel. Mon Mothma asks Vel what she's been up to with Luthen, and they do some catching up. Then back to Cassian again, and the prisoners find out that there is something wrong on level 2 in the Imperial prison. We don't find out what happened yet, but the prisoners can tell that something is up. Back in their cells, Andor tries to get information from Kino Loy to continue planning his escape, but Loy refuses to share anything. Cassian insists that the Empire has no reason to pay attention to what the prisoners are saying, and that no one is listening. He keeps asking him to tell him how many guards there are on each level, but Kino rolls over, turns the lights off, and goes to bed. Clearly he is afraid of endangering himself. In the ISB headquarters, Dedra presents her findings from the interrogation of Bix to the leadership, and her suspicions that Andor was involved on Aldhani. One of the connections they made was that after leaving Ferrix, Cassian was clean-shaven, and the rebels who performed the attack on Aldhani were also clean-shaven. Clearly this is not the strongest lead, but the leader of the group suggests that it is still worth pursuing. Next, the prisoners on Narkina 5 find out that the problem on level 2 is that the whole level was fried. Basically, the Empire killed everyone in an entire sector, more than 100 men. To protect themselves, they all agree to pretend like they don't know what happened, because if the Empire knows what they know, they might get fried too. After this, we jump over to a kind of familiar scene of Syril Karn chomping on cereal and blue milk while his mother annoys him. Syril tells his mother that he has been promoted, and she is very pleased with that. There's a bit of an awkward scene where Mon's husband asks Vel if she found a husband, which obviously has not happened since Vel actually has a girlfriend. Mon and Vel have a bit of an exchange after dinner, where Mon asks what they've gotten themselves into, and Vel has one of the best quotes of the series so far in my opinion. She reminds Mon Mothma that they've chosen a side, that they're fighting against the dark, and that they are making something of their lives. Vel leaves, and we see a shot of Bix Caleen, clearly emotionally exhausted after being tortured back on Ferrix. The next scene is one of the most interesting scenes of the episode. Syril Karn was waiting for Dedra outside the ISB headquarters and stops her to say thanks for his promotion and tell her that she has helped him come out of a dark place by believing that Andor was a threat. Dedra is not amused by this, and there is almost kind of a romantic tension in the air during this, especially coming from Syril, which I didn't really see this coming. I thought before that Syril was just in it to prove his worth to the Empire, but I really don't know where his character arc is heading from here. Aside from his involvement in the first few episodes, he's really only been a side character, but the fact that he keeps popping up in every episode tells me something else big is going to happen with him. Dedra continues to her office, clearly a bit flustered, and receives news that they have captured a rebel pilot. The ISB makes plans to dispose of the pilot after interrogation in such a way as to kind of cover it up and not alert the rebels. I thought that was interesting that just as the rebels don't want to be discovered, the Empire doesn't always want their hand to be so heavy. Tay Kolma meets with Mon Mothma and shares an idea he has to help her get money for the rebellion. It involves working with a banker named Davo Skolden on Chandrila. Mon seems a bit taken aback by this, saying that Davo is a thug and doesn't seem too excited about that prospect. However, there likely aren't many options, and time is kind of running out for Mon to find a solution, so she may have to work with him even though he seems a bit shady. The episode concludes with Ulaf having a stroke while the team is working and leads to a medic being called to take care of him. The medic says he can't help him and injects him with something to end his misery. And here we learn from the medic, after a bit of prying by Cassian, that none of the inmates are actually going to be freed. The men on level 2 were all killed because a man was released on 4, but then ended up back on the floor on 2, and word got out that that had happened. So the Empire killed them all. Andor and Kino realize that none of them are getting out as the guard forces them away from the medic. The episode ends with Andor asking the same question he asked Loy earlier that he refused to answer: how many guards are on each level? And this time Loy answers the question saying never more than 12. So Kino is now on board with Andor after not wanting any part of it before. And that's where the episode ends. So quite a cliffhanger. I can't wait for next episode. I think the reason why they aren't letting any of the prisoners out is because they don't want them letting people know what they are working on. I think it's most likely the Death Star. I'm not totally sure. This takes place close to when Rogue One and the original trilogy does, so I think that's gotta be what they're working on. Palpatine doesn't want any of the prisoners to get out because if word got out that he was building a super weapon, that would not be good for him. I thought this was a great episode, and I continue to be impressed by the quality of the production and attention to detail in each episode. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.